This is a short guide to the Ftable. The Ftable is our mechanism for choosing a critical value based on a probability of a type 1 error or a level of significance. So this is what an Ftable looks like. It's different from the T-table in that the entire table is going to be devoted to a particular level of significance. So every number in this chart is based on, in this case, the 1% level of significance. You'll see in your text that you have a 5% and 10% level as well, I believe. So what's different about the Ftable is that you have degrees of freedom associated with the so-called numerator and degrees of freedom associated with the denominator. And it's the intersection of those two that will give you a particular critical value. So if you remember the F statistic, we had F hat equals what? It was RSS M minus RSS, and then we had RSS and N minus K minus 1. Okay? So this is the typical degrees of freedom for the regression. And this is the number of degrees of freedom for the numerator. So degrees of freedom in the denominator is the regular degrees of freedom for your original regression. Degrees of freedom in the numerator is the number of restrictions you've imposed in forming your restricted model. And we said in class today that this was simply the number of parameters that disappeared once you simplified your restricted model so that it could be estimated. Okay? So in class today we had m equals 1, and then we would have degrees of freedom equal to the number of observations minus the number of x variables in our original model minus 1. So if we had, for example, 3 parameters that were being estimated, 2 x variables and 1 constant, so we had 3 parameters altogether, and we had, so there's our k plus 1, and we had an n equal to, let's say, 13, okay, and we had 1 restriction, then we'd be looking in the first column, and we would look down here at 10, okay, which would be 13 minus 2 minus 1, or 10, and our critical value would be, in fact, 10 in that case, at the 1% level of significance. So that's how we use an Ftable.